Hello everybody and welcome back to Bravebook, a Dwarf Fortress Let's Play. In this particular episode, I'm going to be kind of focusing on trying to fix some of the more depressed dwarves, as well as trying to get a little bit of a paper making / scroll making and maybe a bit of a book making industry up and running. While I'm doing all of this, I'm going to be trying to continue raiding abandoned locations for books in the background. I think that this kind of combination of things will be interesting for a Let's Play format and won't be too monotonous. One of the first dwarves I really would like to work on here is Jurist of Bravebook. This is one of our initial starting dwarves. They've been in the fortress for quite some time, and this one in particular is under a great amount of stress. I'm sure the piles of bodies aren't helping, but our poor Jurist of Bravebook here, good Jurist, really would like to spend time with friends. Many of their original friends have died. Uvesh, Flykod, and Irvad all died very early on in the fort. Same with Arab. So they've completely lost all of their friends. And if I look at their recent thoughts and memories, the only positive thoughts that they get are from sleeping in a great bedroom and empathy after discussing a friend's problems. But whenever anything else happens, it's dejected after wearing old clothing, afraid after experiencing trauma and experiencing an injury. Now, as far as clothings go, they do have some newer clothing pieces, but a lot of their stuff is beginning to degrade. They're also carrying many long yam plants, which are absolutely delicious. So hopefully those will be turned into some tasty treats pretty soon. We also have an artifact going on here in the background. It's a bookbinder, probably going to be some sort of crafts dwarf shop artifact. Now, with this dwarf, I'm actually going to remove planters from them. I'm going to completely remove planters, and I'm just going to see what this dwarf goes and does after that. I'm kind of hoping that they will go off and do something a little bit more, better for their own mental health and worry less about the actual quality of the fortress. As for the artifact in the background, they've still withdrawn from societies, and we do have several squads returning from the recent raids, so I'm going to go send out some more raids, and I'm going to kind of keep an eye on this particular dwarf. We're also going to read the description of several other dwarves in the fortress that we've been keeping an eye on. So I'm sending 2 squads to this location called Bittenrack. Bittenrack is very close to us and is quite full of things and has no civilized population. So we're going to be going after all of these fortresses in the general vicinity that have tons and tons and tons of artifacts and books, but no civilized population, lowering the possibility of being attacked and increasing the possibility of interesting books to read. As for our dwarves, Jurist down here is still incredibly calm, still has an incredibly calm demeanor, always acts with mercy at the forefront of her compassions, and she is utterly languid with a pace of easy living. Still the same Jurist of Bravebook, and hopefully is going to go socialize, because this dwarf is kind of broken, and I would like to see this dwarf recover a little bit. We need to get some happy thoughts into this dwarf's head before something dark begins to happen. There's also some fighting happening, and I'm just kind of curious as to what's causing this. Doesn't appear to be a siege of any sort. Let's scroll down to the bottom and have a look. It appears that a sheep is fighting with a first ash. This goblin here must really Oh, I see. A goblin is tantruming and fighting with a sheep. That's kind of unfortunate. These goblins that have been living here, this one actually has a husband in the fortress. These goblins that have been living here obviously are kind of stressed about the fact that dwarves are beginning to take over their homeland, and even though she is impervious to the effects of stress, she is very quick to anger, and that clearly had something to do with the fact that she just decided to beat the crap out of a sheep for no reason. Hopefully the sheep is fine, and hopefully this goblin begins to recover slowly. It's kind of a shame, really. As for that bookbinder in the strange mood, they're just kind of hanging out, so I'm curious as to what their best skill is. It seems that they are a novice glassmaker, which would lead me to believe that they probably want a glassmaker's shop. So I'm going to jump all the way down to the basement where we are forging stuff, and I'm going to real quick make a magma glass forge. Now this might be a little tricky. We may actually need to make 2 in order for this to work out, because I don't think we have any sort of glass materials in this fortress. So this is going to be a little bit quick and dirty here, but we're going to do what we can. I will make 2 holes in the ground, one over there and one over there. We'll line them up a little bit. One like right here and one like right there, and we can get 2 glassmakers forges installed hopefully quickly, and maybe we can sort out any issues surrounding this. While we're following dwarves around, hero Kulet apparently is quite satisfied, remembering sleeping in their very good bedroom, excited after remembering performing, and excited after work, but was bored after being unable to practice a martial art for too long. So our scholar here wishes to practice a martial art. Maybe it's time for us to make a hobby squad, a squad specifically for dwarves that just want to practice military for sport. It also appears that our squads have returned, so we'll check what they've acquired in a moment. I'm going to assign this squad, and once the squad is assigned, we'll get back to looking at what they gathered. Now, Hero Colette is now a militia captain. I will be putting them on a relatively calm training regiment, so they're not training all the time and has multiple things that they can do. This will hopefully allow them to go train to a degree without, completely breaking the bank. As for where they're going to train, we'll just get them training in the same location as the rest of the squads, kind of right here in the open. It's not optimal, but hey, it will work. We will be able to get them to do something, and this will hopefully make this dwarf a little happier. And as I see other dwarves that want martial training, we'll give them that as well. Now, I think it's time that we go and check on the reports from that recent explorations. We sent them out in the other other episode, most recent episode, and gathered items. And on top of that, we also recently checked out Bittenrack. Once again, it seems like we just arrived and searched the place. I mean, it is kind of destroyed, so we were able to grab a bunch more books. We're going to go out and do that again. This time, we're sending them out to Versus Spine, another destroyed fortress in the Redland. Good luck, dwarves. May your explorations be effective. While we're checking in on dwarves, I think it's only appropriate that we check in on Longbeard, our mayor. He is still grounded in reality and enjoys company of others and tries to do nice things. He's currently worried after being unable to acquire something for too long, which appears to be a running trend amongst our dwarves. Although this dwarf does have a good deal of clothing available to him, so I think it's a little bit strange, frankly. I think what we should do is we should queue up some crafts, and we do have a surplus of copper, so copper crafts, I think, are in order here. Just, a decent number, nothing crazy, maybe just like 150 copper crafts, and we'll see if that will begin to satisfy his need for acquiring objects. It appears that we have a Gelder who has been missing for a week. Now, I'm not entirely certain what got to them. Maybe we'll find the body lying around. In the time being, we definitely should set up some pieces or a slab for them just so that they can rest easy. That's a little concerning, having just surprise deaths show up. So it appears that Kavish here has claimed a magma glass furnace and has since run off to go grab items. Now, because I don't actually know what items they need, we may be in a pickle here. It depends on if there's sand on this map, which I actually can't remember. So I'm going to kind of follow this dwarf around and watch them as they gather items for their artifact and just see what they're picking up, because frankly, it could be almost anything. Ah, perfect. We do have some raw green glass in the fortress, which is probably the item that they wanted, is raw glass. But it's gonna take a minute. We'll cross our fingers and hope that Kavish here can make something grand for Bravebook that will both memorialize and properly honor this faction without, running around like a crazy person and stabbing a bunch of people. So some people have sent in many great names for these toads, and I think I'm going to go with the ones that I found the most amusing, which is Toady 1, okay, and of course, Toady 2. And I will be continuing this as we get more giant or cave toads, I suppose, for the fortress itself. I will also be keeping an eye on the actual animal traps, and hopefully we are able to gather more. I mean, something else worth noting is we do have a giant mole, we have giant olms, some troglodytes, which obviously we can't do anything with, and some more giant olms. So, not a breeding pair of giant olms, unfortunately, and just a single crocodile. So, I'm going to do a little bit of cage placement here and get some of these animals into their new enclosures and see what they think of them. Well, this is an interesting turn of events. As I'm setting up our paddocks down here in the background, I have this. Kavish Lemonstun, the bookbinder, has created Ramug Dagthur Garastiden, a green glass floodgate, and offers it to the auburn rags of paper. So this is something we'll have to do something with. But this is a green glass floodgate. All crafts dwarfship is of the highest quality. It is decorated with baguette-cut green glass gems, and on the item is an image of a true leaps shined the red flash opal codex in green glass. A truly magnificent item. Thank you, Dwarf. So now I think it is time to introduce you to our new animals. So right here in this first one is going to be our cave crocodile. Right over here, we have these elk birds that we've caught, and they are going to be getting trained over here, in this particular cage as soon as I find them. There they are. And then right up here, I have 2 giant olms. Now, unfortunately, we are lacking in breeding pairs. We are doing a very good job, with the exception of the elk birds, of getting absolutely no breeding pairs, which I think is a giant shame, frankly. Speaking of giant, we also just managed to catch a giant mole and a large rat, which I'm going to be putting up here in this higher up section. So we are very much lacking in breeding pairs, which I think is, like I said earlier, a real shame. Although for the ones that can breed, I will be providing nest boxes when and where available. So hopefully we can get those dealt with. And now that I'm stuck in a loading screen, I will simply get up and go heat up my coffee because they are still very long in this map. But before I do that, I just want to say, if you like the sound of my voice, check out my podcast. Link down in the description. And if you want to see my face while I play video games on the internet, twitch.tv/BLIND-IRL is the place to go. So, apparently the elk birds weren't trained. I'm pretty sure they had the trained logo on them when I went to go assign them into that spot, but they are now running around and attacking my toads and injuring everybody, and so I've brought in my one military dwarf here, Hero Kulet, to actually, like, you know, do their job and dispose of these elk birds, which I'm bummed about. I very much thought they had the little trained icon next to them, but either in, like, the time oh, no, we did get one of them okay, let's cancel that one, because we were able to get one of them trained, supposedly, even though it's now, like, just leaving. Well, that's awkward. On the bright side, I do still have an Olm, and Toady 2 over here is seriously injured. Toady 1 is fine, and then my giant Olm over there is injured, so, never mind. We didn't even get that one. Didn't even get one! Boy. The one that is still in the cage, though, the egg layer, is trained, so hopefully we'll be able to get some of that sorted. Well, Hero Kulet, I really hope that you enjoyed your first time in conflict, because, frankly, you are a bit of a hero here. My mistake. Well, we're able to, at the very least, get our animals put away, and we still do have these 2 giant olms, and there's another elk bird running around. I feel very silly. As for the fighting and the combat logs, it's pretty gruesome. It appears that our militia captain is just simply scratching them and tearing the brain and tearing the fat. The militia captain misses the elk bird, and then the militia captain stabs the elk bird in the head with the iron spear. Very effective murder, but I wish it didn't need to be done. On the bright side, we do have a trained stray cave crocodile who is seriously injured, who is currently getting trained by Alath over here, one of our fishery workers, who is currently an honorary training dwarf. We also have a whole bunch of troglodytes that need to be released or something, so we'll figure out what to do with them shortly. Since all of that has been going on in the background, I've had my quern processing plants into slurries. We're now going to make those into paper sheets. I'm just doing these manually until we run out of things, because I kind of want to have a bunch of paper sheet lying around, and it's just, to me, it's just easier to do it that way instead of automating them manually. The next thing that I'm going to do is then I'm going to queue up some rock scroll rollers. We're also going to do some codexes, which do require thread, but we're going to do some scroll rollers first. I'm just going to do about 40 of them. And then we're going to make scrolls. Make scroll. So this is going to give us writing materials so that my dwarves can start copying books as well as writing new ones. Now, of course, they can copy codexes. So I'm going to set this for each to scribe. We're going to do 5. Actually, that seems a bit high. Let's do 2. So we're going to ascribe 2 for each, and I think we're also going to assign some more scribes to this fortress, because frankly, we're going to need them. We definitely are going to need them. So I'm going to assign several dwarves that have the decent wordsmith and the reading skills here, and just kind of build out the library's staff, essentially. They're allowed to have other jobs, but once they are in the reading job and scribing job, I want them to primarily be doing that. We're also going to need some more thinkers in this here library to go and ponder different concepts and items and possible things. So we now have quite a long list of tasks for some of these dwarves, so I'm just making sure that they are prioritizing library duties. As we can see, the writing material here is going up as we are gathering it from various different places. And if we actually check on the chests in the library, we'll eventually start to find ones. Oh, those aren't in the library. Those are most definitely in other locations. If we check in here, we can actually see all these parchment scrolls and quires getting placed in here. Now, of course, a lot of these are from just around the area, from the fortress itself that we've gathered, but soon we're going to have more that we have made ourselves. So those little scrolls and whatnot are going to be quite effective. Something else I'm going to queue up behind the scenes is I'm going to queue up quires. I think I'm going to just do about 40 of them, and I'm also going to do 40 book bindings. Although the book bindings, I think I'm going to make silver book bindings, but because we do also have a surplus of silver, and I think some nice heavy silver books would be quite lovely. So we're going to forge up 40 book bindings, and then we're going to start binding some books as well. As for our scribes down here, one of our most recent scribes is Vakar, Sword Key. And they've said that I read The World of the Fort, and it is very interesting, and they're now reading another book. Many different novels, including this lignite-bound codex and the written portion consists of a 113-page guide entitled, Do You Know Temelrain? Clearly we don't, but hopefully by the time they finish this not very good book, they will. And as for the dwarf themselves, ideally they will read many of these books, and then start copying them and writing new ones as the size of the library grows. Now, for these upper floors up here, I do have this little space right here. I'm kind of thinking about making it into sort of a display area for some display items. Now, if you remember, there was that room down below with that very interesting slab in it. Now, that room had some other things in it, as well as a bunch of scrolls that I can't use and some various other things. But inside of that room was also a bunch of I think I seem to have gone past it. Inside of that room was also a whole bunch of pedestals, similar to this one, these little display cases. So I think we're going to go grab that room, find it real quick, and once I've found it, we are going to use those scrolls that are, or those pedestals that are in it for this kind of the upper room filled with interesting extra items and artifacts and things that are made in the fortress. So as you can see here, the number of books that we have in here have gone up, and the amount of writing material that we have here has gone down. We do have books that have been copied, and things that are getting written. And hopefully as my soldiers continue to grab more books from afar, and as my scholars begin copying, hopefully we eventually get quite the collection here. Looks like we've got quires and scrolls and scroll rollers being made, as well as silver book bindings that have been queued up as well. Everything seems to be off to a good start here. We're also working on another floor for the upper library. We have kind of started to run low on the pitch blend because, all of those bits that we ripped out of the walls earlier are kind of, no longer really serving much purpose. And also we've constructed kind of out here as much as we can. And books are slowly working their way into the library from our recent sieges, such as interpretations of siphons and After the Goblin. Very effective my soldiers have been so far at bringing more and more and more books every single season from afar to the Grand Library of Bravebook. It also appears that another one of the goblins has gone nuts. Once again, it's a damn shame. I mean, living here for so long with no real contact with the outside world, I too would slowly go crazy over time. As time goes by, it appears that the fighting is getting more and more frequent. Combine that with also some magma crabs that have come up from the basement. Things have been a little gnarly recently. We've been slowly starting to lose dwarves, and it's been not an optimal situation. However, that being said, the vast majority of the casualties that have been injured in the fighting have not been my own dwarves, and instead have actually just been the various goblins that have been hanging around. I'm sure they're not super thrilled about their kind getting destroyed like that, but we do have another migrant wave incoming, so I will skim through and add dwarves to squads as needed, and get back to you if I find anybody interesting. So while there wasn't anybody particularly noteworthy, I was able to get several dwarves set up in the military that would be a good fit. We still have some more showing up, and I'm going to continue adding them as need be. Fun little fact, the dwarves in this screen are actually sorted by the order in which they showed up at the fortress. So if dwarves are just arriving, it's generally the best time to add them to the military. Just kind of a little thought here. I usually just kind of look to see if they are brave in the face of imminent danger, and if they dream of mastering a skill, and if they have one or both of those, I will just simply add them to the military. So with two of my squads currently off map, this brings us up to 81, 91, 101 dwarves. It's a pretty good number, frankly, although we are running out of bedroom space, so I'm going to be continuing to work on bedrooms as much as I can, because like I said, we are going to be running out of bedrooms very much. In fact, I'm pretty sure we don't currently have enough. So working on more bedrooms in various locations around the fort, so that dwarves have, at the very least, somewhere to snooze in between their jobs and things that they get up to in the fortress. Squads have once again returned, and it's more of the same generally. We are just going out and exploring all these different locations, gathering as many books as we can. But, you know, I'm starting to get kind of confident in these dwarves. Like, they haven't had a failed mission yet. Granted, I've been sending them to very safe locations, but, you know, there's all of these goblin pits around. There's also this interesting tower right here. You know, I think we might be getting to a point where it's time to say, hey, how you doing? To some of these goblins. And I think that might be a good place to leave this episode off. In the next episode, I'm going to be continuing to unmess up my animal situation down here. Hopefully we can get some more trained animals into these as we go. And also, as we get more trained animals assigned to these pens over time, we're also going to be, you know, trying to expand our defenses, because currently we don't have much of those. We have some of those, but not much of those. And I think that we need some more defenses for this fortress. So that's going to be kind of the focus of the next few episodes after this, since we are now, I guess, officially attacking things. So ain't that exciting? We got to mine out some more tetrahedrite. We got to mine out some more lemonite. We got to, you know, let's just actually go right here and just set up an auto job for that. And with that being said, I think now is the time for me to say goodbye on this episode. If you've been enjoying this series so far and you would like to support it directly, check out the Patreon or the Twitch streams, twitch.tv/BLINDIRL. Pick up a piece of merch over on my merchandise store. And I just wanted to say thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.